This is my book, Escape Velocity Extended. Escape Velocity Extended, written by Damien Leach. And on the back of the book, it says, "This book is a story about growing up in Ireland from 1976 to 2015. Some of it is fiction." So I'll read you out the first little bit of it. Escape Velocity Extended, copyright Damien Leach. This book is dedicated to Eugene Maloney, a journalist and my cousin who was murdered in Dublin in the early hours of the 25th of June 2012. I love you, Eugene. I'll have a glass of whiskey. I'll have a glass of whiskey with you in heaven. On September the 11th, 2001, terrorists flew planes full of people into the Twin Towers. 3,000 people died. At the turn of the millennium, an Italian girl had an orgy behind my back after I had left her out to Dublin Airport. The United States and I both had nervous breakdowns. We were both suffering from Othello syndrome. Escape velocity is the speed a rocket needs to achieve to escape the Earth's atmosphere. I was trapped in a financial jail and I needed to get out of it. Here's my story. I got up from a desk that Friday evening in Dublin. "Asshole," I muttered under my breath as I left the room, closing the large door behind me. This insult was directed at Margaret, my boss, who had told me 10 minutes previously down in the meeting room that my contract with the magazine had been terminated. I walked slowly down the Georgian stairs towards the front door of the office and tried to smile at the warm-hearted receptionist as I passed her desk on the way out. She seemed excited, like everyone else in the building. It was Friday evening after all the week's work done, money in the bank, and the night celebrations about to begin. As I came out into the street, the January winter air of Dublin hit me. It was 5 p.m. and dark. The streetlights were on and people hurried past me homewards or towards the pubs to meet friends or colleagues. Where could I seek refuge? I decided that I would go to my father's office apartment on Main Street. Walking swiftly in that direction, I tried to put a brave face on my utter shock and sadness. Professional-looking, attractive girls passed me dressed in office suits and obviously looking forward to the night's antics. This hit me even harder and it quickened my pace. I thought of where my girlfriend Lorena was at that very moment, and it gave me a sickening feeling in the pit of my stomach. I had suspected for a while that she was cheating. I was trying to comprehend how people could be so cruel as I passed the Pembroke pub, where all the people of Business and Finance magazine drank. I couldn't possibly bear to go in. I suspected that everyone knew that I had been fired. I was mortified. Getting seriously drunk occurred to me as an obvious remedy, but this sorrow that I felt was something deeper than that which could be mended with a few pints. My life had finally hit rock bottom. After 10 minutes, I arrived at the large blue door of the building that my father worked in. I suspected that my father would still be busy, working until 6 p.m., and that I might not get a warm welcome. He was a hot-tempered man at times, especially during office hours, but I reckoned that it was Friday evening after all. 6 p.m. was only 20 minutes away. So I rang the bell. My father's current partner answered the intercom in a professional female English accent. "Hello, hi, it's me. Is Mark there? Is he expecting you? I didn't realize I needed an appointment." "Ah, okay, come up." I pushed the door as the buzzer released the lock and walked up the stairs towards my father's office. As I pushed open the door, coming out into the landing, I could see my father on the phone looking aggravated. "Damien, I can't talk to you now," he said, waving a hand angrily as if he wanted me to disappear, scarp away like a scolded dog apologizing for his existence. I couldn't believe the string of events that were occurring. It was like something out of the film Falling Down with Michael Douglas. So I took a sharp left and entered the kitchen. "Where's Lorena, my girlfriend?" I thought. She was my last hope in finding some compassion. She was, after all, my girlfriend and had been for the past 2.5 years, but things were going far from smoothly. Lorena was the most sexually liberated woman I'd ever met, and I was in love with her, but I hated her when I thought that she could be unfaithful. I had suspected this on many occasions, but Lorena assured me that she was true. I wanted to believe her with all my heart, but there was something I sensed that aggravated my mind into suspicion. This feeling had been growing in the pit of my stomach like a cancer and making me sick. Taking out my mobile phone from the pocket of my faded grey jacket, I keyed in her number. The phone rang and Lorena answered with a cheeky Italian voice. "Hello, how are you?" I said, while wanting to tell her everything. "I'm okay, how are you?" she replied in a cold, clinical voice. "So where are you at?" "I'm on the bus to the city centre. Where do you think I am?" She said. I could hear music in the background and laughter, and she was being cheeky as always. "Listen, I can't talk to you now. Call me later," she said. "Why can't you talk to me?" "Listen, I can't talk. Call me later. Bye." I blushed with anger, and my heart raced as I thought what I was going to do. There was a full bottle of Jameson whiskey on top of the press in my father's kitchen. I took the bottle and poured myself a large glass and knocked the whole lot black in one go. I swung open the door of the kitchen, opened the door of the apartment, and descended the stairs, unnoticed by my father and Amelia. Opening the door, I walked out into the winter air for the second time that I decided that I would head towards O'Connell Street, which was where I usually met Lorena. Avoiding people's eyes in case they would see the torment in my own, I again took out the phone and dialed Lorena's number. "Why can't you talk?" "I just can't. Here, say hello to my friend." Lorena passed the phone to someone else. "Ciao," an Italian said in a deep masculine voice. "Who is this?" I asked. The man handed the phone back to Lorena. That was Anna, Lorena. That was Anna, Lorena answered cheekily. "No, it wasn't. That was a man's voice," I said. "Now you're being paranoid again," she replied. "Yeah, I'm sure, liar. Look, I'll see you at Easton's at 6 p.m. Okay, Lorena hung up the phone. Lorena seemed to get pleasure from inflicting insecurity. She was wicked at times and had done this exact type of thing numerous times. I went into Easton's bookshop, started to leaf through the magazines, trying hard to control the emotion that was welling up inside me. Lorena arrived at Easton's 15 minutes late, looking flushed and smiling as if everything was fine. "Come on, let's go," I said with suppressed anger that was building fast like a volcano on the verge of eruption. "Go where?" "Your place," I said. "You don't want to get a coffee or something first?" She said. No, we left Eason's and walked along the street towards the Connell Bridge in the centre of Dublin. The street was bustling with people and the traffic was backed up with commuters on the way home. "Why were you late?" I asked. "The bus was late," she replied cheekily. "Who is that you put on the phone?" It was a man's voice, I asked her. "No, it wasn't. It was Anna. You're just paranoid." "I'm not paranoid. You're lying again." "Yeah, okay, whatever," she said cheekily. "Look, that was a man's voice on the phone and you're a fucking liar. I don't know what I'm doing with you. I'm going to come back to your flat and get my stuff, and that's fucking it. I can't believe this is over." Okay, Lorena says, as if she didn't really care, and if she had been as if she had been expecting it. Her indifference hurt. We began to walk along the river towards Christchurch to Lorena's apartment. I'd been living with her now for 3 months since I'd moved out of her place a mile. Since I'd moved out of my place a mile up the river beside the Guinnessbury. "How can you be so twisted?" I asked. Lorena just stopped speaking like she always did in arguments when I lost my temper, and been doing so now she was the victim. The walk seemed to take forever, along the river with oncoming traffic queued up all along the quays. I felt the people's eyes on me and that they could see me, and that they could see that my girlfriend and I were having a I wanted to be on the inside looking in instead of vice versa. Eventually we arrived at Lorena's and went into her bedroom. I started to gather up my important things like my mobile phone charger, my clothes. Uh, I started to gather up my important things like my mobile phone and recharging my clothes. I shoved them into a bag while Lorena just sat on the bed with a blank look on her face. Lorena and I really loved each other deeply, but we had come to a point where lies, doubt, and anger had poisoned our relationship. I should never have moved into the flat without paying something towards the rent. I had undermined myself, but I never had any money and was always tapping Lorena for some, which did nothing for my confidence. "I got fired today," I confessed, looking for some sympathy and trying to explain to Lorena how I felt. "That's because you were always late," Lorena replied in a cold, emotionless voice. "No, I got fired because I'm depressed. It's because of you. You're a lying, cheating whore, that's why." Lorena didn't say it. I was close to tears, and I lifted my bag and left the apartment without saying anything. I felt crippled with grief. I exited the front door of the apartment block and started walking down towards Temple Bar, keeping my eyes fixed firmly on the ground. I wasn't able to go down to that depressing bus station and take the bus home to Navan. I went to a public telephone in Temple Bar and called my father. "I need to talk," I said to my dad. My father said something was wrong. He said, "Okay, come up to my apartment." That's a big change from 3 hours ago, I thought to myself, but all the same I was glad to get the invitation. So I started walking towards my father's place, which was a few blocks away. I passed Trinity College, walking up Nassau Street and then onto Merrion Square and onto Mount Street. When I arrived, my father came down to the door and let me in. We went up and sat beside the fire and I explained what happened. How do you know if a woman is being faithful to you or not? I asked, feeling totally confused, numbed and depressed by what had happened. You can't know really, but I suppose you feel it in your bones, he said. Look, I feel you deserve your time in the sun. Why don't you head off to Australia and get your career going? I'm serious. Life is too short for this. Around is bad news. Hair off somewhere and live it up for well. You deserve it. My face brightened, sitting there beside the fire chatting to my dad. I started to regret some of the vicious, cruel things I'd said to her, things said in anger that I didn't really want her to take seriously. But I'd said them and could never take them back. I stayed there until late and then went for the last bus back home. I hated my hometown Navan. It was full of bad memories from when my family had split up. The town where I had almost died due to a chronic asthma attack, after which I had ended up in hospital for 2 months with a punctured lung. I never felt comfortable in the place. The town was home to a few lovely people, but it was also home to the type of people I hated, the type of people that hang around in tracksuits at corners and drive cars with tinted windows. The bus arrived in Navan after an hour, and I was at home now without a girlfriend or a job, home in the place that I hated. I settled into a routine of watching television, speaking to my mother Liz and my sister Louise about what happened. They felt sorry for me and hated that. I despised pity, but there was. My mother had never approved of me living with Lorena anyway. She was religious and disapproved of cohabitation of any kind outside marriage. A good philosophy, but not really practical in the modern world, in my opinion. Or maybe she was right, but I didn't want to think about it. After a day or two, I asked my mother to give me a lift to Dublin so that I could get all my things out of my girlfriend's house, my girlfriend's apartment. I phoned her. I'm on the way to Dublin to get my stuff out of your flat. I want my money first, she said. I don't have any money. I'll give it to you when I have it. They were silent. Look, I'll be there at 7 o'clock, okay? Okay, Lorena replied coolly. Okay, Lorena replied coolly. Sitting in the passenger seat as my mother and I drove to Dublin, I thought about how I'd come to this embarrassing place in my life. What had happened? No money, no job, and a broken relationship. I thought back through my life, as I had been doing over the past while, trying to see what had gone wrong. I went back to the very beginning. I was born in Galvin Hospital, Derry, Northern Ireland, in 1976. My mother and father then took me across the border into Donegal. We lived there as a family until I was 4. The story continues.